My new David Austin rose just arrived, which inspired me to build a cottage garden planter for it. This was my inspiration, which will run you just over $100. And here's my planter, which I built for just $20. So if you'd like to build one too, stick around. I'm going to show you how. Now in the video comment section, I'll have a full shopping list, cutting list, all the tools that you need. So check that information out below if you're looking for that info. Now I used a Behr product called Aged Gray. This is a stain. This is what I decided to use on mine. You can paint yours, you can stain yours, or just let it age in the sun. Now I'm about 50-50. I'm not sure whether or not I love the color that it turned out. So let me know in the comment section what you think of it and what you used on your planter. First, we're going to take the redwood bender board and cut them into 15-inch pieces. Each board is 96 inches, so we'll get 6 pieces per board. We need a total of 6 per side, or 24 total, and I've marked one, and we'll stack them on top of each other and make a singular cut. This wood is very thin and soft, so make sure you take your time, use a sharp blade, and push down on your miter saw nice and softly. We can now take our 2 redwood fence boards. These are going to represent the side trim pieces on the outside of our panels or outside of our planter. And 2 pieces are going to be used at the bottom of the planter to hold the rows in place. Now you're going to cut 2 18-inch pieces and 1 19.5-inch piece out of each redwood fence board. So that's going to give you a total of 4 18-inch pieces and 2 19.5-inch pieces. So now we're going to take our 1.5 by 1.5 by 8, which is technically a 2 by 2 by 8 if you look at any kind of big box store. But these are going to represent the legs. So you're going to cut 4 17.5-inch pieces. These are again going to represent the legs. There's going to be a leftover 26-inch piece, which you're going to cut in half. These are going to be later on used to hold the panels together on the inside of the leg. I will show you that in a bit. Now, quick tip here, just to get all the legs the same length, I like to cut 2 of the pieces slightly long and then line up the third cut with the other 2 pieces so that you have 3 pieces that are pretty much the same length. Then I'll measure my last leg at exactly 17.5 inches and cut them all together. That way, again, you have exactly 4 legs that are all the same length at 17.5 inches. Next step is we need to take our redwood fence panels, the 18-inch panels, and we're going to cut them in half long ways, which is going to be 2.75 inches or 2 3/4 inches. So I'm going to set my table saw at 2 3/4, and we're going to rip them into half. That's going to give us 2 trim pieces for each side of the planter, and we need 2, 4, 6, 8 total. While we're here at the table saw, now is a great time to set our gauge at 0.75 or 3/4 of an inch. And we're going to take those leftover 13-inch pieces that we have from the leg, and we're going to rip them in half. We're going to flip them over and cut them down in half again. So we're going to turn each 13-inch piece into 4 different pieces. And these are going to be used on the inside panels of the leg to hold everything in place. I'll cover this a little bit more in detail on the install section of the video. Now the last cut for the video is going to be the inside pieces that are going to hold the bottom of the planter in place. And I'll go over this in the installation section of the video in a little bit more detail later on. But for now, you're going to take the leftover redwood fence boards and just cut a 1/2-inch piece off of each end. You're going to need 4 of these. Okay, so we need to do a bit of math. And the width of each bender board is 3.375 inches. So if we take 3.375 inches, multiply that by 6, we get a total of 20 inches and a quarter. We want our planter to be 18 inches, so if we subtract 18 from 20.25, we get 2.25. So we need to rip down 4 bender boards to 2.25 or 2 1/4 inches. Okay, so now with this detail up front here, I just want to take a smidge off of the corners here. Now there's way more precise ways of doing this, but I've found just eyeballing it gives a nice enough cut. So again, if you want to be a little bit more methodical, you can measure things out and get precise cuts. You can set up a block here so that all the cuts are exactly the same. I'm not overly worried about that. You could just take a block and just kind of knock off the edge. You could take some sandpaper and try to sand it smooth. I've just found that after a couple of trial and errors so far that really eyeballing it is real easy. So the first one is you're just, again, wanting to take off the slightest amount. So you can just knock your blade into the corner, eyeballing how much you want to take off, and make your cut. Now see, that's nice. Yeah, you can see that. So it's a nice clean cut right there. And now when I turn it, I can just line all of my cuts up to that bare spot of the wood. So again, we're just eyeballing it. We're doing our best here to line everything up as much as possible. I mean, look at that. It looks great just by eyeballing everything. Now is the perfect time to do a little bit of shop cleanup. It's also the perfect time for you to hit that like button. I really appreciate you guys watching the video and checking out the channel. And hopefully you build one of these for your next David Austin rose. So now the fun part, we get to go ahead and start assembling the planter. So the first thing we need to do is lay out one of the trim pieces, and we need to get 5 of the full bender board panels and then the one that we just cut down. So you're going to have 6 total pieces on each side of the planter. I'm going to run a bead of glue on the back side of the trim piece, and we're going to lay the stained side up against it. To secure everything, we're going to use the glue, obviously, but we're also going to use 1/2-inch staples. And I would be generous with it. Give it 4 staples, 3 staples or so. Really get it in there. And once everything dries, the planter is very stable. We're going to continue to do this until we have 4 panels made. Now that we've got all 4 panels made, our next step is to get the legs out and get those interior trim pieces. We need to install those parts. This is where the legs are going to hold the front panels in place. Now, remember, we have a 1 1/4 inch reveal at the top of each leg, so make sure you measure down. Another pro tip would be to look at each leg and find the ugliest side. Maybe you had some overspray, some knotting in the wood, maybe some small cracks, something like that, and you're going to want to hide those on the inside of the planter. And this is also where you're going to want to attach each one of these interior trim pieces. They're very easy to install. Just run a nice bead of glue and you're going to air nail them in place. If you do not have an air nailer, you could always use small screws. You could always hammer some nails in. But again, you're going to want them on the interior, on matching corners of the legs, if that makes any sense. Okay, so now we're going to do the fun part, and that's putting everything together. So we have 1 panel and 2 legs. Now remember, this portion right here is going to be where we're going to run a bead of glue, and we're going to air nail into. We're going to set them flush, and remember, this little portion here is going to touch the top of the leg, all right? And we're going to do that for each one of these. See, and it gives us a nice, clean front end. Look at that. It's nice and level. Everything's clean. It's going to look great. So at this point, you should have 2 panels with legs and 2 panels without legs. And it's real simple. You're just going to follow the same pattern, assembling the whole thing together. Make sure you continue to glue and air nail everything in place. At this point now, at the bottom of the planter, you can install by gluing and air nailing in those small 1/2-inch pieces that we have left. And then on top of that will sit the 19.5-inch fence boards that you have, and that will be the bottom of the container. You'll also notice how much stronger it makes the entire planter. All right, so as you can see, the planter looks awesome. This is a great opportunity now to get the stain back out and give it a 3rd coat. I had 2 coats on it prior to even starting the project. And so now this is a good opportunity to put a nice clean 3rd coat on. You're gonna have some spots that have bare wood, especially at the top of each leg. So be real generous in those sections. But as you can see, I'm using a rag and some gloves, and I'm just carefully rubbing it in. And I find that this is the best way to install stain. So as you can see, the project's almost over and it's looking incredible. This is the rose that my wife bought me. It's Munstead wood, and if you're a David Austin fan, you know how fragrant it is and the beautiful crimson red flowers on it. I cannot wait for this thing to grow. Give it about 3 months, and this is going to be a nice size shrub rose. It maxes out at about 3.5 feet tall, 3.5 feet wide or so. and it's great for a container. So that's what inspired me to build this container. I planted it inside a 5-gallon kind of bucket that you get when you buy a large tree, and just cut the lip off of it. I checked my local nursery, and you could buy them for $6 here. And I would imagine you could call any landscape company out there. They'll probably give you one off of one of their job sites for free. I'm sure they have them coming out their ears. So on this channel, we do lots of garden builds. So check out the other garden builds that we've done here. And in 3 weeks' time, I'm going to be posting a full garden tour. You're not going to want to miss it. It has lots of David Austin roses in it. So subscribe right here. All right, thanks for checking out the channel. Catch you in the next one.